Police crush protesters in Henan province. China celebrates the assassination of Shinzo Abe, and Trump-era China tariffs may soon be lifted. That and more on this week's China News Headlines. Welcome to China Uncensored. I'm Chris Chappell. Something happened in China this week. Okay, that's about all I can say without YouTube demonetizing and age restricting this video. Okay, there was a massive protest in China and authorities cracked down hard. And every time I've shown footage like this from inside China, YouTube demonetizes and age restricts the video. Not only does that mean we don't make the money we need to keep the show running, it completely throttles the views, so people don't even get to know what was going on. Okay, so let's make a deal. I'm just gonna go ahead and show you all the footage and tell you what happened, YouTube be damned. But I need your help liking and sharing this video so the word gets out. And if you can, please support the show on the crowdfunding website patreon.com/China Uncensored. All it takes is $1 an episode to help us continue to fight against the Chinese Communist Party. Links to that and other ways to help are below. I really don't like having to pitch that to you all the time, but seriously, most of our budget comes from viewer support. Without it, China Uncensored could not survive. So, with that out of the way, let's trigger the algorithm. This was the scene in Henan on Sunday. Hundreds were protesting what's been called China's largest financial scandal. 400,000 people in China haven't been able to access their bank accounts. On the line is $6 billion. And in proper Communist Party fashion, protesters were greeted by a massive police formation. Emerging from the police formation was a group of unidentified men wearing very similar but unmarked clothes, who began beating people and dragging them away. This group of guys in the same white shirts began to get pretty violent, all while police watched on. Gee, I wonder if all the guys in white shirts were connected to the police somehow. All this footage went viral on Chinese social media, before obviously being censored. And it created a pretty big outcry. And guess what? Local authorities are now saying they're going to start releasing money to some of the people whose accounts have been frozen. Of course, for many people, the presence of a group of violent men in white shirts brings back memories of the 2019 Hong Kong protests. Groups of men in white shirts ruthlessly attacked protesters. Perhaps the CCP understands that this isn't a good look for them, and much prefer this. And coming up after the break, China reacts to the assassination of former Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe. Welcome back. Last week, something not so nice happened to former Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe. Something YouTube said talking about violates their violent or graphic content policy. Yes, we were demonetized and age restricted for talking about Shinzo Abe getting assassinated. Shoot, I said it. Oh, well, in for a penny, in for a pound. Anyway, after the assassination, China was acting real classy by expressing their party culture. And the Chinese internet exploded in glee. The response in China reflects how decades of government propaganda designed to stoke Chinese nationalism by vilifying the Japanese for wartime atrocities has poisoned public attitudes toward Japan. Because people should be way more concerned about what Japan did 80 years ago than what the Chinese Communist Party is doing right now. Not to be outdone by the internet, Chinese officials also opened mouth and inserted foot. At Abe's funeral, the vice president of Taiwan was there. So, in response, China's foreign minister Wang Yi said, "The Taiwanese government used the opportunity to engage in political manipulation and petty tricks," adding that Taiwan was part of China and that there is no such thing as a vice president. This all happened because Shinzo Abe was a staunch supporter of Taiwan. That's one of the reasons the CCP was so happy he was a Word is, President Biden might be looking to end some of the Trump-era China tariffs. Now, if you're a regular viewer, you're probably thinking that would be a crazy, stupid decision. But some people think it's a great idea. For instance, Biden's top economic aide, who used to work for BlackRock. Or Biden's newly announced top foreign policy advisor, who is a BlackRock chairman. You know, BlackRock, the Wall Street firm that has been telling people to triple their investments in China. I trust good decisions will be made because the people at BlackRock really understand China. Protests have rocked Sri Lanka for most of the year. They're happening because the Sri Lankan economy has basically collapsed. And that's in part because Sri Lanka went deep into debt because of China's Belt and Road Initiative. Last week, the Prime Minister said the country was basically bankrupt. And this week, the President fled the country. I can't believe it. The country is struggling with food shortages, inflation, and rising gas prices, and the President flees? At least we can say the American President would never flee, mainly because he wouldn't get very far. Chinese leader Xi Jinping has been busy. At a recent press conference, it was announced his anti-corruption campaign has purged 5 million party members over the past 10 years. Wow, the Communist Party really is great. It also is apparently really corrupt. We should probably triple our investment there. And as I said, we could not make this show without support from viewers like you. As a thank you, I answer your questions at the end of each episode. Today's question comes from Almighty Overlord on Patreon. Most little pinks believe that Mao's unification of China justifies the millions he killed along the way. Why is unification such a big deal? What if Mongolians, Tibetans, Uyghurs, and others declare independence and become separate countries? The Romans didn't make a fuss out of unification, and today all the small European countries seem to be doing quite well. That's a very interesting question. It goes back to the nature of communism, the dialectics, the oppressed and the oppressors, and the struggle between them. The Chinese Communist Party loves to harp on the century of humiliation. That's what they call the century where colonial European powers did some pretty horrible things to China in the 1800s. Opium Wars 1 and 2, carving up China between different powers. But the Chinese Communist Party united China, especially by killing millions of Chinese people who disagreed with it. The CCP says it stands for the Chinese people and protects them from all the bad guys that would divide China again. And wouldn't you know it, what counts as China keeps expanding. First, the party seized Tibet. The party still vows to conquer Taiwan. Reunite Taiwan. Then there's the 9-dash line, the party's claim to essentially all of the South China Sea. Doesn't stop there. The CCP has started calling itself a near-Arctic state and says it should have control over the Arctic Ocean. And while they're at it, they might as well expand into Antarctica as well. Then there's the head of NASA warning China may try to take over the moon. And I don't think Mars is too far off. So I don't think the CCP will stop until it's achieved universal unification. For the good of the Chinese people, of course. Thanks for your question and your support, Almighty Overlord. Join the China Uncensored 50-cent army and help us in our fight against the CCP. You can sign up on patreon.com/ChinaUncensored or our exclusive social media community on ChinaUncensored.locals.com. Once again, I'm Chris Chappell. Thanks for watching China Uncensored.